Good afternoon, Fergus Dolan here from NALA, the National Adult Literacy Agency. You're very welcome to our webinar this afternoon on literacy supporting technology for all, integrating digital support and literacy practice into all stages of the education system. And our facilitator today is Jane Brennan. Jane is Study Skills and Transitions Facilitator with Munster Technological University at the Kerry campus. So we'll hand over to Jane. All the best, Jane.
Thanks, Fergus. Thanks very much for having me, and thanks everyone for tuning in this afternoon. I'm just going to share my screen and I'll kick off then. Sorry, wrong thing. Where are we? Sorry, this one. Okay. Beginning. Okay, there we go. So yeah, literacy supporting technology and digital literacy supports at all stages of the education system. As Fergus said, I'm the Study Skills and Transitions Facilitator at MTU Kerry campus. We used to be IT Tralee up to January this year, and now we've merged with CIT and we're Munster Technological University. Part of my work is with this project. It's called SAW for Access. And this is in conjunction with colleagues from UCC and Carlow and Waterford. And the section of this project that I'm working on is called Enabling Transitions. And what we've been doing there is looking at software to support students with literacy issues and promoting those kind of softwares earlier on in the education system, so that by the time students come to us, they have these supports and they're able to use them comfortably and easily. So the technology is fantastic, but I suppose people aren't necessarily aware of everything that's there, and there's also a lot of complications that we aren't necessarily aware of. So what I'd like to do today is to show you some of the things that we use in MTU Kerry, and just engage in a bit of conversation with yourselves as to what you use in your own practices and what the benefits and what the issues are with each of these. So in terms of literacy supporting software, there's three main areas that I'm going to look at. Text to speech, so kind of read aloud technology, then speech to text, so dictation, and finally proofreading technology. There are other bits and pieces that we use as well, but these are the ones that I want to mainly look at today. And just to start off, when I began, we were talking a lot about assistive technology as, you know, technology to support people with disabilities of various kinds. And obviously that is a huge field, but the way that technology is developed, the boundaries are very much being blurred between what's assistive technology for people with disabilities and what's just technology that we can all use. And if you think about, you know, just the spell checker on your word processor, it's obviously essential technology for somebody with a disability, a literacy disability, but it's also a universal tool that we all use. So a lot of the things that I'll show you today and that we'll talk about today are really useful for people with literacy issues, but they also have a much broader application as well, which is wonderful because it takes away the stigma and it makes it much more accessible for everyone. So these are the text-to-speech options that we have been using with students at MTU. First of all, Microsoft Word. Second, there's a software called Natural Reader. And third, these are two phone apps. One is called EnvisionAi and the other one is Seeing AI. And I'll show you each of those in turn and what you can do with them. You may have seen some of them before, you may not. So this is Microsoft Word. Sorry, go back to home. This is Microsoft Word. It's the desktop app, which is downloaded from Microsoft 365. All of our students get a 365 subscription as part of their student registration. So if you don't have all of these features on your version, it may be that it's a simpler version, but this is what we use anyway. So there are two text-to-speech options on here. First, under review. On the review tab, you have read aloud, and it just does simply that. Now, I think I forgot to click the share sound, so you mightn't hear this very well, but let's try. Okay, I don't know if you actually heard that, but it did read it back.
No.
You didn't. Okay, hold on a sec. Hold on, where are we? Hold on, I'll have to stop sharing a moment and I'll reshare and with the sound. That's better. Yeah, share sound. Okay. Okay, let's try again.
This is my assignment.
Did you hear that time? Okay, good. Right, okay, so it just reads it back. And we find for our students, that's an absolutely invaluable feature of Word, because it means they can listen back to their own work. And it makes a huge difference when they're reviewing a draft of an assignment or whatever, if they listen to it read back. And we usually recommend that they have it printed on paper and that they listen to it and follow it on paper rather than just trying to review it on screen. They're much more likely to pick up things that don't sound quite right, or words that are missing, or things that are not quite complete, if they listen to it rather than if they just read it off the screen. So that's just review and read aloud. The other feature, which is on Microsoft Word, which you might also have seen, is under the View tab. You have Immersive Reader. And this, in addition to the read aloud, you've got all these features that can change the appearance of the text to make it more readable for the student. So you can change the column width, you can change the page color. You know, different students might prefer different page colors. You can use a line focus here, so that helps them to keep their place on the page. You can space out the text if you want. You can break it into syllables. I don't think any of our students use that. I don't know if you find it useful yourselves, but that's another option. And then when you close Immersive Reader, you haven't actually done anything to your text. It looks the exact same. So those two features of Microsoft Word, particularly the read aloud one, are very important to our students for reviewing their own work. So the second text-to-speech feature that we usually recommend is this one. It's called Natural Reader, and it's a free online software which you can also download to your machine. You can use it different ways. First of all, the online reader, the website is just naturalreaders.com. The online reader looks like this. So you have this box, and basically anything that you put into that box, it will read back to you. Now, I was trying this earlier, and on a call, it won't play very well. You have to take my word for it that works, and it does work. It's very, very reliable. There's not a problem with it at all. But on a call, it just doesn't seem to like to do it. The choices that you have here, you can choose on the free version, you've got a choice of a few different voices, and you can choose the speed. And that's really important, because sometimes you might want to just skim through something, and sometimes you might want to listen really carefully and focus on it. So you have those choices. You can change to this dyslexia font. I don't know if anyone finds that helpful, but it's an option that's there if you want to. And you can change the appearance, the size of the text here if you want as well. But basically the read back function is the most important. But the way that our students mostly use it is if you go to software and then free download, you can download it to your own device, and when you open it on your own device, it looks the exact same and it works the same. So I can even show you what it sounds like now. So
drag and drop your files, or type, paste, and edit text.
Okay,
here.
so just play back whatever's in the box there. But more useful is if you do, oh, sorry, I meant to say as well, you can put any kinds of documents in. You can use, it can be a Word doc or a PDF or PowerPoint slides or something you've copied and pasted off a website. Any kind of text will work, and it will take quite large chunks of text. It can do much more than you see here. But yeah, the main advantage of the downloaded version is here. If you click on more and then go to Miniboard, you can see that it's shrunk up to a small box here, and that will sit open in front of everything else that you have open on the screen, and it's just available to you whenever you want to read something aloud. So all you have to do then is highlight the text that you want to read and press play.
Read many formats, all in one place.
So it's really convenient. And last year, when our students were doing online exams, the students who have dyslexia, who have individual learning requirements and exam accommodations, who would normally have had a reader in the exam with them, they had this instead. And it worked extremely well. They were very happy with it. There wasn't one single student who came back with a problem with it. It was just really convenient, straightforward, everything in one place. So that's Natural Reader. It also has a phone app. So if you wanted to download it to a tablet or a phone, you could use that to read whatever files you had stored there. So the third text-to-speech that we sometimes use, not that often, is this one. And this is, it's a phone app. It's called EnvisionAi. And this is, it's actually designed for people with visual impairments, but I think you'll see it can be useful for much more broadly. I'll just close this one. So this is how it works. And this can be used for reading hard copy text. So if you have a book or a newspaper or something that's not in digital format, you can use this to read instead. So you can see I've opened the app and it's opened through the camera on my phone. And down the bottom here, I have different options. The first one is text, and that's the one I'm using. And under text, there's instant, document, and library. So instant will let me read something direct from the source, from the page or whatever. Document will take a photo of text, one or more pages of text, and read it, import it into the app, convert it into readable text and read it from there. And library will read any files that I have stored on my device. So I'll just show you how those work. So here's the instant, first of all.
As hermit crabs grow and the confines of the mollusk shell become too close for comfort, it has to look.
So it has a little pause to convert the text, but it reads back pretty accurately. The second one is document. That's pretty much a similar process. It needs a little bit of time to process the text, but.
Move away from the document. Processing.
It's taking its time today. It doesn't usually take this long. Come on. Okay, it's going to misbehave, as technology likes to do when it's when it's performing. But what it should do is it imports the text into the app and it reads it from there. And we found that to be very accurate. And the final one, the library allows you to import a file from your device. So I'll go to import file. I'll choose this one.
Processing. Elephants. Facts: elephants are the world's largest land animals and one of our most iconic species.
Okay, so that's what it looks like when it's imported the text into the app, and it should do that for the book as well, but it was taking a bit of time there today. So if a student really has severe issues with reading hard copy documents, that's another option that they can use. So really those three are the text-to-speech options that we suggest, and the benefits of them: it takes out the decoding step from reading. So students who spend a lot of time trying to figure out what does that word say, and it takes out that arduous work and it allows them to focus on the meaning of the text. It facilitates independence for people with literacy difficulties in all areas of life, and particularly if you think about that app, you know, if somebody had severe literacy issues, that could be a real game changer for them. It supports proofreading and reviewing of students' own writing. And there's some evidence for it being helpful for developing independent reading skills through listening while reading. So you might have used audiobooks while reading, or you might have read aloud with students while they're reading something. If students are able to listen to a text at the same time as seeing it on the page or on the screen, it can really help them to develop their own reading skills. It's an alternative method for dealing with digital texts in general and reduces screen fatigue. And I know I have a few colleagues whose work involves reading a lot of long reports, and some of them would very much prefer to put on text-to-speech and sit back and listen to it rather than spend hours and hours staring at the laptop screen. And then OCR scanning, the app that I just showed you, it makes even handwritten text more accessible. So the app will read some handwritten texts, and it's pretty good for that as well. But there are challenges and limitations with text-to-speech, and I think it's really important that we're aware of these and when we're selling these things to students. So first of all, it's only a robot voice, so it's not a human voice. It means it can be quite difficult to listen to. It does not engage with meaning at all. And that means it may produce pronunciation errors, there may be intonation errors. So it might be, at times it might be more difficult to understand.
As hermit crabs grow and the confines of the mollusk shell become too close for comfort, it has to look out for new accommodation.
Excuse me.
You may be lucky enough to observe one moving house if you keep it in a vivarium or aquarium, depending obviously on whether it is a land or water dwelling species, and provide a variety.
The app went off on its own. It obviously had processed its text there and started reading. Sorry about that. Okay, so yeah, it's a robot voice, and it can be difficult to listen to. It doesn't necessarily do the right intonation and so on. It is visible. So if you're working in a classroom, there is that aspect of it's not 100% discreet. So you're either using headphones or you're listening to something played out loud. So the person must be comfortable with that. And also there's a confusing array of options. I showed you 3 different things there, but there's dozens of other ways of using text-to-speech. And I think it's really important to avoid confusing students with too many choices. Just give them 1 or 2 simple things. That's why we tend to use Natural Reader, because it's like a one-stop shop really, rather than giving too many choices. Next is text-to-speech, speech-to-text, so that's this dictation. And really, we use Microsoft Word. Google Docs will also do it. You may have seen this already, but I'll show it to you anyway. So here's Microsoft Word again. On the Home tab, right in the middle here, you have Dictate. So I'll click that. This is dictation. I can use it to enter information without using the keyboard. Full stop. New line. It's reasonably accurate, but you do have to check for mistakes. Full stop. Okay, so as I say, it is reasonably accurate, but you might have noticed that the spelling of check there is wrong. And also it hasn't put a capital I. So you do have to go back and make sure that it says what you think it says and that it's correct. But it's really very, very easy to use and freely available. It's also available on the online version of Word as well. The other way that you might choose to use it is if your student is keyboarding and there's a particular word that they don't know how to spell, they can use dictate for just that single word and it gets them over that hump. So that's another way of using it. The other option for if you don't have Microsoft Word, you can use it on Google Docs. And on Google Docs, sorry, I close this now. It's here on Tools and Voice Typing, and then click on the microphone. This is dictation on Google Docs, full stop. Okay, it made a mistake there. It might have been I was speaking too fast. So you do have to speak quite slowly and clearly if you're going to use the dictation. But I suppose for our own students, speech to text is not at all as popular as text to speech. And there are a few students that use speech to text, but they're a very, very much a minority, really. It has benefits. It allows fluent and fast text production regardless of your spelling or keyboarding skills. So somebody who really struggles with spelling or really struggles with typing can actually get their words on the screen within a reasonable time without becoming too frustrated. And it may free students up then to give greater attention to the content rather than being bogged down in the technical detail. It's a quick and easy spelling support. That's really handy. And there's also a possibility that it could be used for a literacy teaching aid. For example, if you're doing the language experience approach where people start from their own words, they could use the dictate function to put some text on the screen and work with it from there. But there are challenges and limitations. First of all, it's difficult to use in a group setting because regardless even of stigma or whatever, if somebody else is talking in the area, it may pick up their speech as well. So you do need a quiet place if you're going to use it. It is necessary to check for errors, and if that's going to be more painful than the keyboarding in the first place, then you might need to avoid using it. And I know I'm working with a group of traveller women at the moment who have very basic literacy skills, some of them, but they also have very basic technology skills. So the effort of going back and editing is more painful than the effort of keyboarding in the first place. So there is a balance there. And also the students need to be aware of a lot of other things, and that producing written text is not the same as just translating spoken text into spellings. So there's punctuation, which they need to put in themselves, and they need to think about register and other conventions of written language. So those are things that need to be taught and that students need to be aware of if they're using the speech to text function. And finally, the planning and organisation need to be taught to integrate speech to text into an effective writing process. If you imagine yourself trying to write a challenging piece of writing and trying to dictate it off the top of your head, that's not easy because we can't think fast enough using the correct kind of language that we want to use through speech. You would need to do some planning and organisation and maybe have some notes on paper to use this effectively in a writing process. So that's speech to text. And finally, proofreading support. You don't need me to show you the spell checker on Microsoft Word. I'm sure we all use it all the time and it is invaluable, and our students use it all the time, and it's absolutely essential to them. Another one that's popular though is Grammarly. A lot of our students have that in addition to the spell checker on Word. You can add Grammarly to your word processor And you can also have it as an extension on Chrome, so you can use it to check your emails or your social media posts or anything that you might be writing online. So I'll actually show you what it looks like on Word. So it's actually open here. Let's see, wonder if it'll pick up that mistake. So the free version of Grammarly will give you options for correctness and clarity. It hasn't picked up my my spelling of check, so it hasn't identified that one. Let's see if it'll do this one. It's being a bit slow, it's checking. Oh yeah, here you go. So you just click on here and it gives you a choice of a better spelling, and you can choose that or not. It's up to you, and it'll correct it inside the text. A lot of our students like that a lot. The clarity correction will help you if you're putting in extra wordy phrases or that kind of thing. And I've sometimes found that very useful. The rest of these are premium issues, which frankly I wouldn't even bother with. I think the correctness and clarity are actually enough. So that's Grammarly, which is quite popular at MTU Kerry. The benefits, obviously, is a universally helpful writing tool. We all use it. For our students, it reduces time and effort spent on spelling. You know, that writing isn't all about spelling, and sometimes students have picked up that idea that spelling is all it's about, and it's so much more than that. There's free options available for digital applications, not just word processing. So as I say, you can do your social media posts and so on. And there's also a suggestion that proofreading software can give students practice in distinguishing between similar words. So it may give you options and you have to pick out which one was the word you were actually looking for. So it gives a bit of practice there. It does have challenges and limitations though. It's never 100% accurate, and that's really important, that students need to be taught to retain responsibility for decisions. And sometimes when students have really struggled with spelling and with developing literacy, it's all too easy to just hand over kind of editorial responsibility to the software, but they need to know that that's not right, because it is only software. It's never going to be 100% accurate, and they need to know that they're the ones that make the decisions. It might not identify homophones, and students might need a separate strategy for these, and you could see that with the check. It didn't pick up the wrong spelling of check there, and so things like there and there may not be picked up by a spell checker, and students need to know that. And they may need a separate strategy. So what I usually suggest is, if a student knows that they tend to model up, say, there and there, that they use the find feature on Microsoft Word and search for every example of each spelling and just check by hand that they've used the correct one. And also, students need to be taught to use the software as part of a broader reviewing process. So again, it's really important that students know that writing isn't just about spelling. And when students have struggled with spelling and the kind of basic technical details of writing, it's important to teach them that there's more to writing than that. It's about the content, about the flow, about the style, and so on as well. So this is nearly it. So these are the main literacy support software options that we tend to recommend. So there's Microsoft Word, Read Aloud and Immersive Reader, Natural Reader, Online, the software and the phone app, Grammarly for Word, Grammarly on Chrome, and Envision.ai, or else Seeing AI if somebody uses an Apple phone. The last one I'll just show you is called Visor, and this is a Chrome extension which can be very helpful for some students. It's here, and it just does this. You can change the color, you know, depending on how much blue and how much red and how much green you want. You can change the brightness, and you can change the focus area, and then you can scroll up and down through your text and not lose your place on the page. And that's very useful for some students. So those really are the softwares that we find have been useful for our students, and that we're trying to get people interested in at other stages. But there, we're aware that there are there are criteria, there are circumstances that are different at different stages of the system. So these may not be appropriate. And I'm really interested to hear from you what you've been using, and if anything, and what is your experience. So we're going to move into breakout groups now. So, and these are the questions I'd like you to look at. So what literacy support software do you currently use, either for yourself personally or with your students? What works, what helps, and what's challenging or limiting? What might you consider introducing in the future, either of what I've shown you there now or other things that you've heard of? And what hopes or concerns do you have about this? Okay, I think everyone's back now, are they?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay, well, okay, thanks, folks. I hope you had a good discussion there. I didn't ask you before you went out to elect a feedback person, so I have to ask some of you to volunteer now. I would really, really, really love to hear back from you, because we know what's going on at our end, but you're in all kinds of different circumstances. I'd love to hear what kinds of technology you're using with your students, and how that's going for you. So if anybody would volunteer to unmute and tell us what your group was discussing, that would be wonderful. Please.
Have we got a volunteer from group one?
I don't mind going. I don't know which group I was in. I'm Veronica.
Thanks, Veronica.
Yeah, no, but we kind of might have gone slightly off track, but we were just discussing, first of all, that maybe not a lot of our students are aware of some of especially the ones on Microsoft 365, and how user friendly they are, and we were really impressed with them. And then I think Yvonne made a point that maybe not everyone has access to 365.
Yeah.
And that's something that maybe we could look at, as or the ETBs could look at. Yvonne mentioned, do you want to, would I say the mind mapping tools, or do you want to say it?
Yeah, I can say it, Veronica, if you wish. Yeah, there's a very good mind mapping tool. It's a memory aid, and it's very good for students for specific learning differences, called XMind. I can put them into chat there in a second, but it really helps to organize thoughts and put everything down in paper or on screen as well in a very very clever way to help students to focus as well on any assignments they have to do. The other one then is that I know is very, very good. It's called Census Access. I don't know if anyone's heard of it, but what it does is, if you have reading difficulties and you find it hard to read through a lot of information, if you upload the information to Census Access, it converts it into an MP3 or audio file that you can just read it or listen back to it instead. So it's invaluable really for people with visual impairment or with reading difficulties as well. So thanks, Veronica.
Thanks, Yvonne, and thanks, Veronica.
Mm-hmm.
The 365, I know everybody doesn't have access to it. And I know some of the centres I've worked with don't have, but a lot of that is available on, you can, if you combine kind of Natural Reader and Google Docs, you can get it that way, or even on the online version of Word, some of those features are available. And XMind is very useful. To be honest, I don't think many of our students use it, although we have given workshops in it, but it's lovely easy to use program. And what's quite nice is that like the advantage over a paper mind map is that you can include things like hyperlinks on it, so you can click on a node and go straight to the page that you were looking at. So yeah, Xmind is actually really nice. Yvonne, what kind of students are you using Xmind with? Is that school students?
No, with adult students in the further education and training sector. And then I was also contracted recently to assist with the disability services in UCC. And those students with specific learning differences were using tools like that as well. But
Right, yeah.
The mind mapping tool is excellent, really. It's very good to help to organize thoughts and just create clarity for the students.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a huge fan of mind mapping. Yeah, absolutely. And that is a really nice program. There's loads of other ones as well, but I think Xmind is the one that I've used. That it's really very straightforward and it's free as well, isn't it? So
yes,
yeah, thanks very much. And census access, we've only just recently got the use of that, so I haven't had much of a chance to play with it, but it looks to offer so many different options, so that'll be really interesting. Thanks very much. Any other comments there, folks? Are there any tools that you found useful for yourselves in your own work? Or are there any gaps that you see perhaps in what would be useful for your students? No, I'm not sure if did we hear from both groups there? I'm not sure, Veronica and Yvonne, were you in the same group or different ones? I'm not sure if we heard from the second group.
We were in the same group.
Okay, perhaps if somebody from the other group who wasn't with Yvonne and Veronica, would somebody from that group perhaps come back and let us know what you were talking about? No? Okay, not to worry. Look, I'm available. I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to hear from you further wherever you're working. If you want to get in touch with me, I'm Jane.Brennan. I'll write I'll put it in the chat, actually. That's easiest, isn't it? I'll give you my email address. And if you have any questions or comments, any further feedback, that I'd really, really love to hear from you. So I'll put my contact details here. Okay, so that's me. So so thanks very much, everyone, anyway, for coming along, and thanks for your comments. And I'd really be very interested in hearing from you, any of you, if you have any further comments or questions.
Jane, thanks very much for a fantastic presentation. So many ideas and tools that you showed us how to use. So really appreciate that. And thanks to everybody for tuning in. Jane's going to send me her presentation after the event, and I'll send it on to all of you. And by the middle of next week, we should have this this video of this session on the NALA YouTube channel. So thanks, Jane. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Fergus.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks a million. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
That was very
Thanks.
interesting. Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Really good.